two questions here, not related except indirectly. Can we talk about the geopolitics a bit more of the energy situation? What, for example, must less stable and less affluent at the moment oil producers, Iraq, Libya, Venezuela, do to make the energy transition successfully? And what are the chances that they could become truly failed states if they continue to rely on oil and gas? The second question is, in a recent article in Arab News, the most widely read English language newspaper in the Arab region, the Middle East, and the Islamic world, you take a position that there's no such thing as clean energy, but cleaner energy. What do you mean? Could you be a bit more precise in terms of what cleaner energy would look like and the feasibility of it in the short term or the immediately foreseeable future?
Well, I would recommend that the entire audience read the article and share it with as many people as you know. Because within that article, I point out that all these folks saying solar is clean energy is wrong. It's not a clean energy, because if you follow the supply chain for solar power back to the cobalt to create the batteries and the other minerals that are mined to make the solar panels and more, you get back to places with slave labor, for example, in Democratic Republic of Congo, or abusive labor in Bolivia and other countries that produce lithium. When a lot of people think of lithium, many of them may think of the lithium mines of California or in Australia, where people are treated pretty well. They have unions and all this. But most of the cobalt that goes into your cell phone, let's say, here's my cell phone. The reason why this cell phone has a rechargeable battery is because it has cobalt as part of that battery. This is a major part of the rechargeability of it. And a lot of that cobalt, I'm sorry to tell you this, folks, is dug out of the ground by child labor and slave labor. And well over 650,000 people have died in the Democratic Republic of Congo. And it has a lot to do with blood minerals. A lot of the so-called clean energies base their minerals, find their minerals in places of conflict. Most of the minerals in the world are found in developing countries that are unstable. Think of all the people trying to go after the minerals in Afghanistan. Oh, there's 1.33 trillion, so forth, of minerals in Afghanistan. The chances anyone is going to get a good chunk of that out, close to zero, because it's so unstable. How do you think the Taliban are going to treat the people once they figure out a way to get this stuff out and sell it to the Chinese? By the way, the Chinese are our laundromat for our ethics and morality on this. A lot of that cobalt and lithium and other products go to China. China is the biggest battery manufacturer in the world. And then they send them to us with a stamp, let's say BTY or batteries, whatever battery. And we buy it in the store and we think, oh, that's nice, that looks clean. Because we don't think about the supply chain. We don't think about the people abused along the supply chain. Anyone who calls clean energy better do a complete run-up of what the supply chain of that clean energy is. Where do you get the materials to make this stuff? How much of the environment is damaged to dig this stuff out? Now, that's just one. That's solar, wind energy does the same thing. The Tesla batteries, come on, give me a break, maybe not necessarily Tesla, but batteries in general are problematic. Some companies, including Tesla, HP, and Apple, have made a deal that they will not buy conflict minerals for their batteries and material. That's a good start. It's a lot like the Kimberley process for diamonds. Let's hope that moves forward as the transition moves forward, because if this does not happen as the transition moves forward, there will be an increase in the abuse of people in order to get these massive amounts of minerals out of the ground that will be needed for the energy transition. Why am I saying cleaner? Because solar, geothermal, nuclear, wind, ocean energy don't produce even near the emissions of natural gas, coal, and oil. That's cleaner. And also when it comes to the abuse of people in the past, let's not dismiss the fact that that happened in the oil, coal, and gas industries, and it's still happening in the coal industries of India and China. There has to be a sense of energy justice for the future. Excuse me if I stand on top of my soapbox. Without that energy justice for the people associated with this transition and the people associated with those staying back, there will be revolutions. There will be civil wars. There will be increased crime. But even more important, people will have their souls injured by the mistreatment of others. Without some sense of justice in this transition, it frankly will not happen in many places in the world. Look what recently happened to Chile, a major copper exporting country. The people got fed up with the inequality. They got fed up with not sharing in the proceeds. They rioted throughout the country. They burned down some of my favorite buildings in Santiago. I went to Chile many times to talk with them about energy and the copper industry and so forth. A beautiful country, but a very unequal country. Iran could be walking into this too, because Iran is an incredibly unequal country and an increasingly unequal country. Even kings and princes have to think about what's happening on the street. Ask the Mubarak family about that. And the Saudis have been responsive to what's been happening on the street. And the Emiratis are in a different story, because the typical Emirati is doing very well and has a lot of funds from the government. But 85% of the Emirates is not Emiratis. What's going to happen in the future with this if they realize back in their home countries, things are getting, what's going to happen to the future of expatriate labor if oil markets start to decline? Where do they work? What happens to the population growth in India, Pakistan, and the Philippines, and Indonesia when these energy systems are changing? That's a huge question. Just walk around the Emirates, drive around the Emirates, meet some of the people who actually do some of the household work and do the work on the oil fields, so forth. The working people, the people who built the Qatari LNG facility. I was there while it was being built. There weren't many Qataris doing that. Lots of Pakistanis and Indonesians and Filipinos. What happens to them when oil and gas is not what it was? These folks have to be educated. They have to be trained. They have to have skills to survive in the next world that's coming. And if they don't have it, the mass of unemployment will be shocking. Everyone looking at these energy transitions is looking at these nice blue and yellow and gray curves and the change in the energy use and all this. Behind all of those charts are hundreds of millions of people who could be either desperate for jobs or have new jobs that give them hope and a sense of honor. That's a big thing that has to be considered. A lot of what's happening in our own country is because of these technological shifts and because many companies went and mechanized and had AI take over factories. Why would you need a high school graduate to work in one of those factories? You don't. So what do they do? What do they do? What do they do now in COVID? COVID is going to be a world-changing event. The fact that it's happening at the same time pretty much as the startup of a significant energy transition could lead to either a wonderful world if we do this right, and we have great leadership, that's going to be key. If we have poor leadership, forget about it, folks. It's going to be a mess. We have to train for better leaders. We have to train for better workers. We have to train for better scientists who can explain their science to the public. There's a big gap there. Look at what's happening with COVID. Look what's happening with climate change. Look what's happening with the whole idea of energy.